Happy Monday morning, everybody. Welcome back to Weather on the Go, all your weather coverage. Hope everybody's having a great start to their work week out there. In today's video, we will be talking about extreme heat building across the desert southwest and the southern plains throughout this week, and then rounds of storms trekking in across the upper Midwest and the Ohio Valley with severe weather possible, including the threat for tornadoes through this week, and then the tropical weather update as a new tropical system is likely to form across the eastern Pacific Ocean as we go through the next few days. So looking first at the overall weather pattern here today, we have that strong upper level low pressure system across portions of Ontario and Manitoba, Canada this morning. And that's continuing to present us with more northwest flow across the eastern United States. But the upper level ridge is starting to build north today across portions of Southern California, Arizona, New Mexico, and West Texas. It will be moving into places like Colorado, Utah, and Nevada as we move through the day today. And then as we get to midweek, that builds even further north toward the northern Rockies with more northwest flow and a battle zone going on in the mid-Missouri Valley region with some big storms possible as we get toward the middle of this week. But looking at the temperatures, we have heat headlines across the West Coast and the southern United States. We have heat advisories in South Florida. We have heat advisories in the orange here across south central Texas, west Texas, and southern New Mexico, and excessive heat warnings actually for southern California, southern Nevada, and western Arizona. And you know, if there's an excessive heat warning out here, it is hot, folks. So we're definitely seeing a stifling heat wave through this week. So today's high temperatures will be pretty typical for this time of year, with average to slightly above average temperatures across much of the mid-Mississippi Valley here into the upper Midwest. You can clearly see a cold front is up here across portions of North Dakota and northern Minnesota. Behind that, temperatures will be into the 70s, but the heat is on across south central Texas, southern Florida, and then back across California, all across the south and southwest. Temperatures could be getting well into the 90s, if not moving past the triple digit point as we go into this afternoon. That continues on Tuesday. The upper level ridge will try to build north, so we'll have more 100-degree highs across Texas, New Mexico, Arizona, into southern portions of California. And then as we go into Wednesday, this looks like the hottest day for Texas and the southern plains, as we have more triple-digit heat from Amarillo down to Lubbock, Midland, Texas, and then east to the Dallas-Fort Worth area as we go into midweek. But a cold front will try to erode the northern portion of this upper level ridge of high pressure as it builds further to the north, and that will create a battle zone by Wednesday with some big storms rumbling across the Midwest into the Ohio Valley. But first, looking at today, we have a slight risk for severe weather across the UP of Michigan, down here west southwest through Wisconsin, southern Minnesota, northwest Iowa, getting into parts of South Dakota, and then down the Great Plains from Nebraska all the way south here into portions of northwest Texas as we go through the day today. This is a slight risk in the yellow. That's a level 2 out of 5 on the scale here. The tornado threat is maximized up where the wind shear is the strongest, and that's up across north central Wisconsin and southeastern Minnesota. So that's the La Crosse area back into the Rochester, Minnesota region as we go through the afternoon and evening. You can see, timing this out a little bit through the afternoon, not much happening across the upper Midwest or the Great Lakes at that time during the afternoon. We could have some scattered activity across the Front Range getting into the western high plains here this afternoon. This could present us with some very large hail, possibly even some damaging winds, and maybe a small tornado threat at times as well. It will be raining cats and dogs across the Northeast, guys, up into upstate New York, Vermont, New Hampshire, into western Maine. Very heavy rain this afternoon, a washout of a day across this region, so definitely stay indoors. Nice day to watch movies or just stay indoors in general up across the Northeast. But tonight we have the cold front sagging further to the south. This will erupt a line segment of storms across Wisconsin. This could present the threat for some tornadoes. Now, it's not the highest tornado threat we've ever seen, but we could be seeing a couple isolated spin-ups along with damaging winds over 60 miles per hour and also some quarter-size hail up across this region. More storms will be erupting from Nebraska, Kansas, Oklahoma, down to Texas as we go into tonight. Generally speaking, it's more few and far between with the rainfall across the upper Midwest and the Great Plains. If you do get lucky enough to see a storm, you could see up to an inch, inch and a half of rain here, but I'm more concerned about the Northeast. We could be seeing several inches of rainfall accumulation over the next 12 to 24 hours in western Maine, Vermont, New Hampshire, upstate New York, western Massachusetts, and this is pretty troublesome as we have a high risk for flash flooding into the Tuesday morning time frame up here into northeastern New York into portions of New Hampshire here. So that is or Vermont. That's something we're going to have to watch as we go into Tuesday time frame with a large moderate risk actually surrounding that down into western central Massachusetts and getting up into western Maine on Tuesday. And what this means is that with moderate to high risk for flash flooding, numerous to widespread flash floods are likely, if not expected. And if you're under that high risk, we could be seeing areas that do not normally experience flash flooding that could, and lives and property are in greater danger with a high risk for flash flooding. So seek higher ground with that as well. And just to put more perspective on this, the Weather Prediction Center only issues high risks only 4% of all of the days they issue any of the weather probabilities for flash flooding. So this is very troublesome, and a 2 out of 5 of all flood-related fatalities are in high-risk days, and 83% of high-risk days do cause damage as well. So that is something to watch as you live across the Northeast throughout the day-to-day. Definitely just make sure to stay on top of the weather. If a flash flood warning is issued, to take higher ground and seek shelter as well. So something to watch there. But as we go through midweek, we have a very powerful Pacific jet moving across the northern United States, across the Rockies, the northern plains, and into the Great Lakes region. And this is going to be troublesome into portions of Iowa, Illinois, and Indiana as we go into midweek. We have a cold front dropping down to the south, and it's all about the timing of the cold front. And it's all about the placement of the cold front as it pushes further to the south. So as we go into Tuesday, the cold front will move further south. Wednesday, this turns into a stationary boundary. But where does the stationary boundary set up? Does it set up in central Iowa over northern Illinois, or does it set up a little bit further to the south into northern Missouri into south central Illinois? That is the big question mark and the $1,000,000 question as of this morning here. Right now, the Storm Prediction Center has a slight risk for severe weather across west central Iowa into portions of Nebraska here, northwestern Missouri, with a marginal risk surrounding that here from the Detroit region, Chicago, all the way back into Rapid City on Tuesday. We also have another cold front down here across the Gulf Coast that could be giving us some marginally severe storms from Tyler, Texas to New Orleans, all the way over toward the Orlando region on Tuesday. And then on Wednesday, the Storm Prediction Center is banking on the stationary boundary being a bit further to the south. So that has the mesoscale convective system or long-lived windstorm pushing a little bit further to the south towards St. Louis, towards Springfield, Missouri, Peoria, Bloomington, Normal, and then into Indianapolis and much further south of northern Illinois and toward the central Illinois region. So that's what the Storm Prediction Center is thinking as of right now. But the ensemble guidance does have the instability gradient a little bit further to the north still as of this morning. So as that is kind of evolving, the EPS ensemble, this is the European ensemble guidance, has the complex of storms getting together across the northern high plains and into the upper Midwest on Tuesday night. And then it starts to strengthen as it pushes across portions of Iowa into perhaps southern Wisconsin, parts of Illinois into northeast Missouri as we go through the morning into the midday hours of Wednesday. But again, it's all about the placement and the timing of the cold front and where this MCS complex of storms moves through. The options are open. It could move through central and southern Wisconsin or as far south as southeastern Missouri into southern Illinois. So there is a several 100-mile trek at which this point the MCS complex could move through on Wednesday. So still a lot of uncertainty with this, but as it moves through on Wednesday night, this will start to fan out and have more back building of storms across Missouri into portions of Kansas as we go into Wednesday night time frame. And then as we go through the long range period, we still have more of a dominant west-northwest flow across the northern states, with the ridge building back across the west and the desert southwest with more well above average temperatures through the 19th of July. And that continues, but it starts to build even further east once we get into the third week into July, July 17th through the 23rd time frame, as we have much more above average temperatures for everybody except for the Pacific Northwest into Washington State and Oregon, where we have near normal temperatures during that third week there in July. And just looking at the U.S. monthly drought outlook through the rest of July, it does look like we get into more of an active period across the Midwest and Ohio Valley and even into the Central Plains at times through the rest of the month. So that does mean drought remains, but could improve across a lot of this area, if not maybe even removal from the drought is possible, if not likely, across parts of the Midwest, the Central Plains, and the Ohio Valley through July, as the active weather produces rounds of showers and storms, some of which could produce heavy rain and also could be severe. Now, in contrast, further to the north, the storm track will be a little bit more sparse, so we have more drought development likely across the UP of Michigan, northern Wisconsin, and northern lower Michigan, also the Pacific Northwest, and then especially underneath that ridge down into south central Texas from Dallas Fort Worth down here to the San Antonio region, El Paso, Texas. Those areas could start to see more drought development likely as we go further on through the rest of July. So that will be something to watch moving through the long term. Looking at the tropical weather update, only a 30% chance of development over the North Atlantic here, and this is moving away from the United States, so it's really not that big of a deal. You can see a couple tropical waves here kind of surrounding this Bermuda high, and it's moving more to the north and east, so it's away from the United States. Not a big deal in the North Atlantic. Nothing to be speaking of really for tropical weather in the Caribbean or the Gulf over the next week or so. Different story in the Eastern Pacific, a 90% chance of development over the next couple of days, within the next 2 to 5 days in this region. This is also just over the open waters and moving away from North America generally, but that tropical wave is in full force across the Eastern Pacific, and it continues to move further to the west here. The waters are warm to near average, so we still have some muscle to work with across the Eastern Pacific here with this system. And you can see on Tuesday, tomorrow, we start to develop that system a little bit more, maybe turning into a depression as we head into Tuesday night, Wednesday morning, and then this could turn into a tropical storm or hurricane, probably named Calvin, as we go into that Thursday time frame on the European model. The GFS also supports it with the placement and the intensity around a 998 to 1000 millibar low pressure system on Thursday, so that we will continue to watch. Well, if you like detailed weather breakdowns on North America, including southern Canada, the United States, and the tropics, be sure to hit the subscribe button down below. You get all of these detailed weather breakdowns each and every morning for you guys on this channel. You find it nowhere else like this on YouTube, so make sure to subscribe to the channel down below. It's absolutely free to do. And also, if you like today's content, today's video, press the like button, the thumbs up button down below. It definitely helps out to get more information out to more and more people on YouTube, so I appreciate all of the likes out there. If you want to follow me on Twitter for additional weather forecast updates in addition to today's video, hit the description down below the video. Follow me on Twitter at hweather420. I definitely appreciate that, and I do update on that platform fairly frequently as well. Otherwise, again, make sure to subscribe to the channel if you're new. Like the video down below to get more of this weather information to more and more people. Leave any comments, questions, and concerns below. I'll get to those later on today, and I hope everybody has a great rest of their work week out there.